Well, a very good evening, or a very good morning, or a very good day to you, wherever you're listening to this webinar. Welcome to International Coaching Week for 2022 and this very special presentation. My name is Natalie Ashdown from the Open Door Coaching Group, and it's a pleasure to welcome my co-host, Anita Green, CEO of Proxima Strategy and Squadron Leader of Air Force. Welcome, Anita, and thank you for joining us all on the line uh, this morning for you from all the way from Abu Dhabi.
It's 11 o'clock in the morning here for us.
Great. Well, it's International Coaching Week. I'm very excited to be here with you, Anita. And today we're talking about organizations reimagining and transforming the future with coaching. So the theme for International Coach Week was reimagine the future. So it's great that we've got this opportunity to share this presentation. So let's, before we begin, let me acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we're all meeting today, and their continuing connection to the lands, waters, and communities of Australia and international lands, waters, and communities as well. We pay our respects to them and to their elders, past, present, and emerging. So, Anita, would you like to take us through the agenda? What will we be focusing on today?
Yeah, so we've tried to keep a reimagining flavour to the presentation. And in order to do that, we need to reflect on a few of the base coaching culture aspects. So what Natalie and I will talk through is what is a coaching culture, and why is it important to organisations? We'd like to take you through implementing best practice and through the coaching culture framework that Natalie has written herself. And also talk with you about some lessons from experience. And throughout that, we'd like to get your input as well. So if you have things that you've learned along the way with similar stories, we'd love to hear from you. And then we'll be talking about reimagining the future. So why is coaching so important to the future of organisations? And if you would like to get some CCEs for your coaching accreditation at the very end of the session, we'll stop the recording and hang on the line, and you'll be able to take a screenshot of that for your records.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Anita. So the way that you can actually interact with us is via the chat box. I can see there's a lot of experienced coaches on the line. So feel free to jump in. We're keen to hear from you. We're keen to hear from you, your experience, your ideas, what you're thinking about reimagining the future as well. And it's just so nice, I think, also to take this week out. Like, we're not taking the week out, are we? But, to have a week where we actually focus on ourselves as coaches and on our profession as well. So it's lovely to be thinking about International Coach Week and that great theme as well. So yeah, feel free to interact with us, jump into that chat box and share what you feel like. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's have a think about what are we talking about when we talk about coaching culture. So shall I jump in here, Anita, take over and
Yeah.
talk about the way we're thinking about it. So when we think about coaching culture, and of course this was the coaching culture came out of the work that we did when we put our diploma of organizational coaching together, and that was some years ago actually now. But the more we think about culture within our workplaces and coaching, it helps us think about what are we talking about here. So what we're really talking about is coaching, everything that we do, perhaps even things we take for granted as coaches, our listening, our asking questions, our open conversations, feedback, that forward focus, the International Coach Federation, code of ethics, core competencies, all of that. Supportive language and behaviors, everything we talk about from coaching. We're thinking about coaching plus culture. So culture, when we think about it, it's about a state, a property. It's something that emerges where we have shared values, beliefs, artifacts about the way we do things around here. And I was thinking about this, Anita, like culture is it's not a static thing. It's not, well, here's our
Natalie,
culture,
I just
that's it.
lost your audio. I just want to check if others can hear you.
Can you hear me okay? Let's see if others can actually hear. Good. Am I back?
Yes.
Oh, you can hear fine. Oh, thanks, Chris. Thanks for letting us know. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so we're talking about culture being something that emerges. It's not a static thing. It's something that when people come and go from organizations, as organizations mature over time, the culture is going to change. It's a dynamic entity, I suppose. So what we're thinking about when we talk about coaching culture is that the coaching that we know, these skills that we have, the way that we show up as coaches becomes the way we do things around here. It emerges as part of our shared values, beliefs, the artifacts, and the way we do things around here. Anita, do you want to add anything to that when you think about culture within organizations? You've got an enormous amount of experience in this area. Anything else you're kind of thinking about? Oh, we've lost you now. So yeah,
There we
there you
go.
go.
I'm back.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see over recent years, from my experience in Air Force, where the culture is starting to change slowly towards a
Mm,
coaching culture, or at least a culture that embraces coaching as one of the key skills. And I've seen that organization slowly grow the more we embed coaching skills across the organization. And it is leading to some really amazing results. Um,
mm.
and looking forward to seeing where it goes in the next phase.
Yeah, of course. And looking forward to hearing about those results too on our presentation today. So why is it important? Anita, what are you thinking about when you think about why is this thing called coaching culture? Why is this thing called this skill, this practice of coaching, why it's important? Have you got some ideas around that?
Yeah, there's I think the population seems to be moving towards an area where people want to be developed. They want to be engaged in the workplace. They want to have an impact for what they do in the workplace. And coaching skills really do bring out those behaviors and empower people for that. Um, and an interesting one is that being proactive with our coaching skills, it has an effect where it reduces the amount of conflict in the future. So we're giving people those skills so that they can empower themselves, have greater communication, collaborate and communicate more effectively, which reduces the impact of interpersonal challenges that occur. So there's a whole range of reasons.
Mm,
The reason why the main organisation I've been involved with in the past, the main reason that we found that a coaching culture was important is that it empowers all those values and behaviours that the organisation expects of its people into the future, which is
mm.
resilience, a great communication, being able to empower each other every day, uh, and employee engagement. So people actually want to turn up and be there and do their best that they can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's a lot of experienced coaches on the line, so feel free to jump in and tell us why you think a culture of coaching is so important in our workplace. I really come back to we want to bring out the best in our people and empower high performance. We want people to take responsibility because as leaders, we know we can't do it all ourselves. So building that coaching culture means that people can take responsibilities. I often think about like that people don't like being told what to do all the time. They want agency, autonomy in their roles and responsibilities. A lot of organizations are building into their strategy that they want their people to be innovative, to speak up, to give feedback. So coaching actually enables all of these behaviors that we're thinking about. And it is definitely linked through to workforce strategy and the objectives of the organizations. But when I think about it also, I just think we want happy, productive workplaces, workplaces where people are energized, engaged, as you said, Anita. And we're thinking about how coaching actually enables being part of a great, high performing organization. So I've
And
also loved that. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
and when you say high performing organisation, there's been a lot of research done in recent times around what does create a high performing organisation. And a lot
Mm,
of it is around psychological safety. And coaching is a key driver of psychological safety in organisations. So the research is
yeah.
supporting what you and I see every day in the organisations that we deal with.
Yes, you're right. And I mean, I spent a bit of time on Gallup.com for those of you that are keen on finding out where we can go to get some good research. And it seems like building coaching into performance conversations, building coaching into everyday conversations. Gallup report uplift in performance, uplift in engagement. They report decrease in absenteeism. So all of those core metrics that we're thinking about from an organizational point of view, they all start to increase or decrease, whichever way we want them to go. So yeah, that's very important.
Natalie, if I can share with you something else I've come across recently, is that I've come across the Harvard Business School in their strategy execution courses, and they're generally across the board for their work that they do. They're promoting the fact that coaching, to be a coach and use coach-like behaviours, is a key element of organisations to be able to achieve their strategy. So they talk of to effectively execute strategy for an organisation, no matter what size it is, we need to be a commander at times, we need to be a boss, we need to be a facilitator, and it's essential that we're also a coach. So we need to have those coaching-like skills so that we can bring out the best in our people and execute that strategy for organisational performance.
There you go. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I haven't read that study yet, so it's great to hear. Of course, Harvard has had a coaching school and a coaching mission for a long, long time. So it's great to hear the research coming out. And I think what I like about what you said there is we're not doing coaching all the time. We're wearing different hats, and so it's not out with the old, in with the new. It's about how do we integrate coaching into our everyday. As part of our culture, as opposed to out with whatever we were doing last week and in with the new stuff. So yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it.
Absolutely. We need to be able to change hats for the situation, so a skilled leader can identify what's going on in the situation right now and what hat they need to wear at that particular time. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's heaps of people, you're all on the line going, yep, we know that, we do that. So we're in good company when it comes to those things. So coaching enables all these things that we hold to be very important. And I thought I would throw this one at you, Anita. This is I don't know. This is the cute factor. Sometimes in all our presentations, we need like a cute a cute photo. But this is kind of like I see like the roosters. Like I see them turning their back on coaching and going, let me throw this at you. It sounds like a total load of fluff to me, or aren't we just teaching them soft skills? Or I even heard someone today say, oh yeah, someone told me to go on that course and it sounds like what I know, but just got a different badge on it, or it's utopia we're talking about. So these things that are important, the type of organizations we're talking about, we get pushback sometimes that this is utopia, or yes, that's all very fine that you're talking about this, but that's not going to happen in our organization. So how do you kind of respond? I'd be keen to hear, and anyone on the line that wants to jump in as well. How do you respond when people go, "Oh, this is just fluffy, tree hugging kind of talk"? What do you think about that?
While people put their comments in the chat box, my question around that is, and by the way, I love the cute slide. When people do say, "Oh, that's just utopia," but what is utopia? An ideal society, right? An ideal situation that we're in. Why can't we aim towards having utopia in an organization? Why can't we aim to introduce the skills and the techniques that get us one step closer to that utopia? Perfect.
The ideal, the ideal work environment, the ideal environment for psychological safety, and the ideal environment for high performance. Yeah, I love it. I think the other thing I turn to is, well, it might sound like fluff, but it's not fluff. Like hardcore metrics like engagement scores, absenteeism scores, safety scores, cultural survey scores. These are hard metrics that we can actually turn to: pass rates, fail rates, all sorts of things. So um, the coaching that we're doing enables changes in the real metrics over time, which is why it's important as well.
So I'd love to hear from the people on the line about their experience so far. So why do you, What have you seen that has led you to believe that coaching is really important for organisations?
Yeah, feel free to jump in. Alrighty, and as you do that, I know that some people are probably listening to this in the car and listening to it on the way home, so that is absolutely fine too. Maybe you're podcasting this. So we think about that we need a strategic approach to this, a strategic framework. And Felipe has jumped in there to say that to become more conscious and responsible. So why do we need coaching? To be more conscious and responsible for corporate social responsibility. Yes, I definitely agree with you. Thank you. Let's just check the chat box as we go as well. Thank you for jumping in. So we're going to take a look at the strategic framework for introducing culture. So perhaps Anita, I can talk about this, and then we can you can jump in as well. There it comes back on the screen again. With the way that we're thinking about the strategic framework, Open Door came up with the coaching culture framework, which has been implemented into a number of organisations. We're thinking about two halves of the diagram, actually, the top half, which is related to strategy and setup, and the bottom half, which is related to the enablers and implementation. And a lot of this came out of the work that we actually did with Air Force to reimagine. We had a kind of a waterfall diagram previously, like a top-down kind of approach to implementing coaching. And things that we need to think about. And we redid the framework to think about pieces of the pie or pieces of the puzzle that we need to think about. And when we're thinking about coaching culture and a framework for that, a strategic framework, we think about the top half of the diagram is about strategy and setup. So this is first of all thinking about how coaching relates to the organization values and vision. How does it enable the organization values and vision? And coaching in organizations always has to be linked through to the organizational workforce strategy. If it's not, if any project, if any change project, any initiative that we're bringing in is not related to the organizational strategy, it's pretty well doomed as far as we can tell. And the other thing as part of that top part of the strategy and the setup is to think about the organizational artifacts. And this is where we're thinking about what are the signs that we actually have coaching in the organization? What are the tangible elements? And for me, it's things like posters. I remember you produced posters that got put up on the wall, Anita. It's how do we include coaching as part of job descriptions, performance evaluations, so formal performance reviews. How do we include coaching? How do we include coaching as part of our key performance indicators? So all of these tools and artifacts and job descriptions, etc., where we see coaching, we bundle them under organizational artifacts. So it's important as an organization evolves with coaching that coaching's linked to organizational strategy, it supports the values and vision, and then there's obvious signs of coaching in the organization. Did you want to add anything to that as well, Anita, when you think about that strategy side of the pie?
There we go. I'm mute. I must say I'm a big advocate of the coaching culture framework because I've used it myself in organisations, and I thank Natalie for that and the team at Open Door Coaching. So initially, the framework was used in the very early days in Air Force as an example. And then we got so sidetracked with actually implementing a program that it sort of got a little lost there for a while. But at the time when we conducted a review on the program and how coaching had been implemented in the organisation, I pulled this out, reflected on it, and was quite happy to see that we ticked the majority of the boxes unknowingly. And it was a wonderful way to reflect and go, are we on the right track? What have we missed? How can we improve what we are doing so that we can achieve that strategic objective for Air Force? It's fantastic. It really does encompass everything that is needed to think about in order to achieve the coaching outcomes.
Wonderful. Yeah. And I remember that meeting actually when we sat down and we went, wow, it's actually happening. So, this best practice that we talk about in introducing coaching into organizations, we were looking, going, hang on a second, it's actually really working, which was amazing. I remember that that feeling. So we talk about this the lower half of the diagram, and this is about the enablers and the implementation. And I love this idea that coaching is an enabler of the strategy, of the workforce strategy. And there's a number of different things that we might do to enable the workforce strategy, the values, and the vision. For example, we might have coaches within the or people within the organization become accredited as internal coaches. Coaching programs such as leadership programs or manager as coach or coaching 101 programs might be introduced. There might be coaching introduced to business units or squadrons or departments. And of course, we've got individual coaching, team coaching, executive coaching, group coaching that might be going on. And the other thing that really enables the strategy, which we've focused on, I think, as well, is how do we do that evaluation and feedback loop so that we're continuously improving as part of the work we do. And what I like about the framework is that, sometimes we think, well, but I don't have budget to introduce an internal coaching program. But what I like about it is, well, we can still do individual coaching, and the middle piece of the pie there, we can still uphold the coaching principles. As our dear friend and HR specialist, Paula Jones Hunt says, we can always ask one good coaching question at a time. So maybe we can't do coaching programs, or maybe we can't influence our business unit or our department, but we can always just show up as coaches, be asking that one great coaching question at a time. And if we're doing that, I think we're making a difference from a cultural point of view. So those
And
enablers are so important.
Natalie,
Go
to
on.
add to that, so like you say, not everyone has the budget or the support around them to implement all of this. In an ideal world, we all could, but we can't. But we shouldn't underestimate the ripple effect of one small action and the influence it can have over an organization. Every single organization that has created change, it all starts with one person. Asking great questions and being influential, the ripple effect can be massive when it's done right.
Yeah, you gave me goosebumps when you say that, because we can see who's on the line, and there's a lot of champions on the line, a lot of people who have spearheaded coaching in their organizations and created that ripple effect, including yourself, Anita. So it's been wonderful to watch that roll out. So thank you. And we're thinking about, so how do we, how can we influence? How can we lead the organization? How can we create that ripple effect? And we might be focusing on different pieces of the pie at different times. We might have the opportunity to write some workforce strategy, or be involved in creating artifacts, or be involved in rolling out or running a leadership coaching program or something like that, or a coaching 101. So there's lots of opportunity to be involved, I think, as an individual as well, in building the culture that we want within our organization. And feel free, everyone, to jump in.
Yeah. Does anyone on the line have experience implementing a strategic framework around coaching and have any comments around it? Like great experiences or challenges?
We'll be keen to hear from you as well. Yeah. So let's turn to your experience, Anita. I mean, it's a great opportunity that we have to actually learn from you, because you've been directly involved in implementing a culture of coaching within organizations. So I'm very keen to hear your experience. Would you care to share some of that with us?
Yeah, sure. So I was involved in a previous job developing a whole of Air Force coaching program. So a wonderful idea was put forward, and the skeleton around it was put in place. And then I came into the program and helped grow that program over a few years. the basis of the program as background is that we've got leadership coaches that are ICF accredited, ICF accredited course trained via Natalie, open door coaching, and a few from some other training courses. And those coaches then go out and deliver leader as coach style workshops. So the intent behind those is that everyone across the organisation has an opportunity and encouragement to learn coaching skills. They don't end up being coaches through this one-day workshop, but they get the coaching skills so that they can just go back to their workplaces and have really great conversations and empower themselves and those around them every day. For me, that is the gold. That's where the nugget of gold is for changing cultures. So having internal coaches is important, yet giving everyone in the organisation through leader as coach style workshops the skills so that they can change how they interact at work is where it all happens for me. So that's the background of the Air Force program. Some of the lessons that we learned along the way is that framework is important. We can go in there with the best of intent, but if we don't focus on what is important to make that change work, we miss things. So it's really important throughout the process to look back on the framework and identify what results we need to actually achieve, how it fits in with our strategy, and what we need to do to get there. For the champions, it was really important in the early days to get the champions at all levels of the organisation. So first up, we had to get the very senior champions on board so that we could get the line item in the budget, so that we could pay for coaching courses. So we had dedicated people who could implement the program. We always worked on a skeleton staff model, so it was always a challenge. But we did have the line items so that we could go out and train people. So that was a massive bonus. For the champions, we found that it was also important to look at not just the senior leaders, but who are the influential people across the organisation. So there are people that don't necessarily have the senior rank or position within an organisation, but they are incredibly valuable because they have that ability to influence people within their sphere. So in any organisation, there's going to be those people, and we need to identify them and get them on board. They can make a massive difference. Something that we found was it's a very fine line between, it's a really fine line between the balance of structure and innovation. In a cultural change program like this, it's important to have some structure, like the framework that we can work towards so that everyone knows, what the boundaries are, what we're trying to achieve, and there's some basic standards. Yet it's really important for innovation to be able to empower people and give them an ability to go out there and create change that's appropriate to their area. So in large organizations, there's lots of little, microcosms of culture within one large organization. So it's not always a one size fits all. So we trained people, and then we empowered them to go and identify what was needed in their area. And the success was due to the innovative practices of those people. And they did amazing things, as you're aware, Natalie. Yeah. To support that, with centres of excellence, there were what we called coaching hubs set up around the country. And the first one we set up in Amberley, and I was involved in that. And it was simply the coaches in the region coming together. So people in, it's this incredibly large base. I think it's about 4,000 people. So we had to create an opportunity where the coaches in that environment had a chance to meet, talk about best practice, talk about what's happening for them in their specific area, and brainstorm. What can we do? How can we innovate? How can we reach the greater Air Force and achieve that strategic vision via coaching? And talk about it to make sure that they were actually on the right track with what they were doing. So the whole way through, linking it to strategy and values where possible.
I think that's also about, Anita, I was going to ask you because when you're in the early days of implementing a culture of coaching, the champions can feel a bit alone, I thought. It's like, I go back to base in Queensland and I've been accredited, but no one else really has around me. So I think that's where the hubs became really important, would you say, so that people didn't feel like they
Yeah.
were alone and championing this by themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Because some of the coaches out there had amazing intent. They were so motivated and keen to really do good across the organisation. Yet for some, it was a struggle when they came up against organisational blocks to implementing what would actually benefit long term. Yeah, and it gave them that network of people to bounce ideas off. And it also helped them leverage other people's networks that may be able to influence in a different way that they couldn't.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah.
good point. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I see in the comments that uh, Anil has said, found that you need an executive sponsor for the framework to be sustained across the organisation. Yeah, you need that champion at a senior level who can provide that support and the funding
Mm.
to make it happen. Absolutely, agree with you.
I
Yeah,
think I definitely agree if you want to need that larger scale rollout. I think sometimes it's not always possible to get that, but wherever we can get the highest level of sponsorship is what we're going for. Um, the 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 true implementation of the culture does need that support. I agree. I think it's possible to do it without it, but at some point, like it, otherwise we're just, we can still be coaching. Maybe people in our business unit don't really get on board, but we can still be doing coaching. But to really do the kind of project that you're talking about, Anita, I 100% agree. We need that executive sponsor, someone that's going to say not only approve the funding, but also I think champion it. Tell others why it's so important that we do this thing called coaching, so that it's
yeah.
not just something that comes and goes as well.
And Natalie, I'm curious, in the other organisations that you've worked with, um, are there any experiences that you can share in a generic way with what you've seen in other organisations?
Yeah, so it's been interesting actually. There's one organisation that comes to mind, which is a law firm, and they have introduced conversations, coaching conversations, and they're bringing that idea through. So what they're talking about is they want conversations to be happening. So they haven't actually gone down the accredited coach route and the coaching 101s, but they're doing shorter workshops that expose people to coaching skills and what it means in everyday conversations. And I really like that model. Lots of people have been exposed to how we can have conversations in the workplace as a part of what we do. So that's one scenario. So we've got defence, you're talking about. I'm talking about major law firms. I think also people would know that we work with CSIRO, so Australia's leading science institution. And CSIRO have done a lot of different coaching in a lot of different ways, and where we've been involved is in the coaching 101. So that's another way of thinking about things, that the coaching culture could be introduced into the organization in many different ways. If I'm coaching leaders within the organization who are then in turn coaching their people, that's how we're getting that spread effect, and that's how we're getting that ripple effect that you talk about, Anita. So um, personally, I'm not fussed how coaching is introduced, whether it's via, coaching 101 programs or conversation programs or fully accredited programs. I'm keen to see how the different approaches actually have an impact. We're also working in mining at the moment, so a smaller organisation who is doing a bit more of a top-down approach. So their leaders are becoming accredited. Then the next layer of leadership is becoming accredited, and it's fascinating when you think about how coaching, I think, can go across organizations, can go across cultures. And as you have experienced, Anita, go across rank as well. So go across that organizational hierarchy.
Yeah. And another one that I'd like to share is that one organisation that I have feedback from is that they originally went out with the intent to create a cadre of accredited coaches. They did so. They got a handful of them, but then they realised that the real value for them in their situation was to do similar. So to build the skills within people so that every person in the organisation could have great coaching style conversations when the time was right, because we also need to be a commander, a boss, and a facilitator. But when the time is right, to put on that coach hat and have the great conversations, and they change their culture.
Yeah. And it's real, it's actually happening. I agree. I think the other thing that I like is that, yes, obviously we advocate for coaching qualifications and for international coach federation qualifications. And when we're doing that, we are actually setting an international standard within the organization as well. So now we believed in that before we even had the programs about setting standards. But I think when an organization embarks on accrediting their people within the organization to be qualified and credentialed as coaches, we really are setting a new benchmark for how we implement and the difference that we can make, I think.
Yeah,
Well,
for
shall we
sure.
go on and talk about reimagining the future? Because that is the theme of International Coach Week 2022. So, Anita, why don't you kick us off with what are you thinking about when you think about reimagining the future? And anyone that's listening, please feel free to jump onto the chat as well. This is where we can kind of let our minds run a bit freer as well. What are you thinking about here? Oops, sorry, I've jumped
Yeah.
on forward. There we go.
Yeah, I see that it's going to be even more important into the future because the rate of change is moving rapidly. You know, managers and leaders are thrust into positions where they've got amazing technical skills, yet the world around them is evolving really fast. Leaders and managers can't have all the answers because of this rate of change. So the only way to operate into the future is to empower the people around them. They need to bring out the best in their people so that they are more innovative. They work together. And this has been happening, for all of history, yet the rate of change is moving at an even faster rate. So it's going to become even more important. I've read a few reports in recent times also around the changing population. So even the ICF global study that was released recently and some other interesting reports I've read all say that the younger population coming through are more open to coaching, and they actually expect it from their managers. So they're coming into the workforce expecting development and coaching and to have an impact on the workplace. And I know that is stereotyping, and I really don't like to do that because I think every generation has their differences, and it really is. It's also personality based. Yet the research is showing that that is the case. That the younger population do have an expectation that they want to make a difference, they want to have an impact, and they expect the development and coaching from their managers. Yeah. Now, I had an very interesting conversation with a man earlier this week, a new person I met at a networking meeting. And he's very big in the metaverse, the study of what's occurring with technology around the metaverse. Now, this is for me, it's very much an emerging topic, and I have so much to learn. But to share with you, so his take on the metaverse and the future that we're moving towards is that in the very near future, people will stop going to office-based environments, and most of our work will be online in like a virtual reality office. And this is how people will be operating in the future, which I find a little like mind-blowing and exciting, yet a little scary. But the world is changing. So how can we adapt to meet that environment? And you know, as managers and leaders and just everyone in the workforce, we need to adapt our communication skills, and it's going to affect our resilience, how we collaborate, how we communicate with people, and coaching does support all of these things. So it was mind-blowing conversation.
Oh, absolutely. And I think about just how far we've come just in the last couple of years, I suppose, where, I remember coaching people, say 2.5 years ago, and the coaching conversation was all about how can I just find one day off a week, so I can work from home, so I can catch up on things. And in hindsight, we're like, be careful what you wish for, because, across the world, people have had to go to working from home. But I remember like that was such a foreign thing just 2 years ago. Just 2 years ago, different parts of Australia went into lockdown, and the organisations didn't have enough laptops, Wi-Fi devices, chairs, you name it. They didn't have enough technology to actually give to their people to work from home. And now, many of us would take that for granted. Where my office is wherever I open my laptop. But just 2 years ago, that was completely foreign. So, um, when we talk about these generic terms like the dynamic environment or the world is changing at a fast-paced technology, it's actually true. It's actually happening. And I think it's been accelerated by what we had to do around the global pandemic to enable people to work. So,
And Simon in the comments has said the only people talking up the metaverse are those with a vested interest in it.
yes, yes.
I understand where you're coming from. I do. And like Natalie said, technology is changing, and the pandemic and recent times have sped up that rate. Where we will end up in the future, whether it is a full-blown metaverse like some people talk about, or just a hybrid situation, which is my personal expectation, things are changing. And like Natalie said, we've seen it in the last 2 years.
I think the other important thing, though, is we've got on the side here that what I think coaching enables and why it's so important that we are all having this conversation is that we are still human. I reimagine a future where we become more coach-like, where we show up listening, where we where all those things that I mean, I can see the experience on the line here with us, Anita, and so everything we're talking about, people know. But I imagine a future where we are more coach-like. So we are showing up in those conversations, listening, asking great questions, being curious, enabling, being innovative, where we're creating workplaces we can be proud of, where human potential is actually unleashed rather than squashed. It is all those things that we want. And it takes us right back to that original slide. It's not utopia. And the reason for that is because there's organizations like the Air Force that you're involved in that are doing it today, that are implementing these ideas today. I find that very exciting, and that's why I get out of bed.
I'm curious, Natalie. So with the people that are online listening, I would love to know if those people have ideas about how they see coaching in organizations in the future. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, so feel free if you've got access to your keyboards to jump in and tell us what you're seeing in terms of trends and reimagining that future, enabling coaching. It's be very keen to hear from you.
Yeah.
Other things that we've thought about is the technology and how it's changing around the ability to Zoom now or Teams or so previously it was all about having to catch up, as you know. We might have been coaching over the phone or face to face, but pretty well all the coaching I'm doing now is a lot of the coaching. It's all now I can see the person, interact with the people using Teams and Zoom. And as I said, just 2 years ago, it would have been potentially a lot less of that. So how technology is enabling us to connect over coaching is very, very important as well.
Yeah. And I'm finding the same thing here in the UAE, Natalie, is that, yeah, it definitely has moved to a more hybrid situation where technology is being embraced. Absolutely. Yeah.
And we've got a comment there from Simon. You're saying it will become more JITGET. So you can perhaps tell us what that means. Maybe you're using an acronym there, or and Philippa has said, Felipe, sorry, has said, so different media, Zoom, SMS, Teams, but also the AI. So yes, we have seen an uplift in AI. It's hurting my head a bit that you might have coaching bots. I don't know. I don't like it, but anyway. Oh, just in time, just enough training. Yeah, thank you, Simon. Yeah, so a real trend to just in time, just enough training, the flexibility, the adaptability there around training and coaching as well. Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Got it. I'll have to write that down. Thank
So,
you.
Natalie, how is it that open door coaching can help organisations prepare for the future and work with the people they have in the organisation today and meet future strategic objectives?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. We have, well, I think the thing that we're trying to do is make coaching accessible. And one of the ways we do that is through our Open Door Coaching Cafes, so our weekly webinars. For those of you that are listening, you might be used to logging on a Friday afternoon, so it's a bit strange having it at this date and time, but we'll be okay. We'll listen to it again tomorrow. So yeah, and our programs like the Diploma of Organizational Coaching, where coaching culture is specifically built into that program. So we look at advanced coaching skills, and we also look at the strategy of implementation. Of course, we've got our Certificate 4 program, which is rolled out throughout Air Force. Leader as Coach workshops. Bring Out Their Best is there if people want to look at the book. And I'm very excited to let you know that we will be launching a new book soon with my dear friend, coach and colleague Emma Doyle, called What Makes a Great Coach. So you can watch out for, everyone can watch out for the book launch. The book is in edit, it's in layout format, so we're just waiting to see it come back, which is very exciting. Emma has actually surveyed over 500 coaches, the world's best coaches, and asked them what makes a great coach. And the book contains real life stories and just great lessons and practices about what makes a great coach. So looking forward to that as well.
I was not
Anita,
aware of that. Congratulations.
yeah. Yes. It's been a little bit under wraps, but it's coming, and I just sent it off to layout. So we might as well start talking about it. It's very exciting. And tell me and tell everyone on the line, Anita, what you're doing in your capacity there with Proxima strategy, and particularly, what does coaching look like over in over in Abu Dhabi in the UAE?
Yeah, so coaching in the UAE is still, so Australia is a fairly established coaching market, where in the UAE it's still an emerging market. Yet there is still lots of coaches, people are on board. Some of the major organisations here have implemented coaching programs. Yeah, quite amazing. So ADNOC, one of the major organisations, just recently won the Prism Award for coaching
really?
excellence. And I see what they've done at ADNOC is very similar to what Air Force did do. There's a lot of similarities. What I do in Abu Dhabi and the greater UAE is working with organisations to design and implement the coaching programs that support all of this that we've been talking about. So making sure that they have the right people in the organisation that are coach trained, that their people are learning and developing those coach-like skills so that we can really change the culture in organisations. And helping them create a program that is sustainable into the future so that they can move forward and achieve their strategic objectives using coaching as one of their main skills.
Yeah, wonderful. It just sounds like music to my ears, and you are the expert. I mean, the the rollout of coaching at Air Force and the impact and the number of people, I think it's gone well over 9,000 people now that have been exposed to the Coaching 101 programs that have been rolled out. So that is possibly the largest or most significant rollout of coaching that we've seen here in Australia. So I'm just wishing and hoping that happens for you over there as well.
Yeah.
And so, Anita, just in terms of closing comments, and we will pick up, anyone else's comments here as well. What gets you out of bed when it comes to coaching? What do you love most about coaching?
Great question. So I get
Mm,
really passionate about people and organizations. And so in a previous life, I was a dispute resolution practitioner, mainly constantly focused on workplace disputes, so doing mediations and conflict coaching. And it genuinely broke my heart to see some of the toxic environments that are out there. So
mm,
my passion around organizations and people is to create a sustainable environment where people have the skills, where, like you were saying, they are happy at work, they
mm.
know how to communicate together, they are engaged, they understand the bigger picture of the environment they're in, and they can overcome all those human challenges that occur because we're human. So
Yeah,
that gets me out of bed, is to make sure that we have really happy, effective people and organizations succeed.
yeah, I love it. Like I said, music to my ears. Yeah, absolutely. I think for me also, because I have such an opportunity to listen to coaching, I'm a bit of a nerd. I can't help myself. I like listening to coaching. I like hearing great coaching questions. I love the curiosity that comes with coaching. When someone asks a great question and then someone stops and says, "Oh, that's a really great question," and you see the impact of that question and that people are really thinking. And it's such an opportunity to tap people's potential, that potential that they maybe never thought they had, or to bring out the best in people. So I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to that. I do love to hear coaching, and I do get to do a lot of it as well. But I just love the power of a curious question and how that can unlock potential. So um, I think that's what gets me out of bed as well.
Nice.
Mm. Well, a
Natalie,
lovely
I'd like to
celebration.
say,
Yeah.
I would love
Mm.
to say thank you so much for collaborating today and to talk with everyone about coaching in organizations, the importance of a framework, some of the lessons that we can all learn from experience, and what it means for our future in organizations. And I'm honoured to be able to present with you. For those that don't know, Natalie is one of the most senior coaches in Australia, and I believe one of only 18 in Australia that are master coach qualified with the ICF. So honoured to be here with you presenting today, Natalie. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And of course, the pleasure is mine as well, Anita. We've known each other and worked with each other through the Air Force coaching program for quite some years now. And we always talk about the success of any change program, including coaching culture, requires the champion. So to have that energy and that vision, to have the privilege of working with you, to bring that vision to fruition, has been an absolute joy and privilege. And of course, collaborating here tonight, I write down notes. I'm learning from you every time, every time we catch up. So thank you so much. So
Yes.
on that note, everyone, we want to wish you a very great International Coaching Week. As we always say, enjoy your coaching. Do stay in touch with us on the socials. Get in touch with Anita. Find out more about the coaching programs that she's running. Jump in on our Leader as Coach workshops if you're keen. There's plenty to offer. But most importantly, enjoy your coaching and enjoy the difference that you're making to your organizations and to the people around you. So thank you, everyone. We say enjoy your coaching.